as I reflect on, and I'm thinking about, in particular, certain leaders who I think have been successful, there are a few things that stand out for me. One of the things that stands out for me is that they tend to be highly strategic leaders. And what I mean by that is they tend to live not so much today as being able to think about where's the organization going to be 3 years from now, 5 years from now. And what that allows them to do is to articulate two things. Number one, what's the threat of the status quo? What's the threat to the organization if we don't transform, if we don't make the changes we need to make? But even more importantly, they're able to see where do we need to go and to articulate a compelling story about what does the future need to look like? What are the high standards of performance that we have to meet in order to succeed in a more challenging future? And they hold people accountable for those new, different, higher standards. I think about one of the leaders that I know who's most successful. Over the last 5 years, he's probably turned over his executive team or turned over the 50% or more of his executive team 3 or 4 times, which is really difficult for the organization. It's really difficult for the CEO who builds relationships with the people who he works with. But there's this capacity to say, this is what's required. In a single-minded drive to say, it's my job to hold my leaders accountable. It's my job to hold the organization accountable to a standard that assures that we're going to survive and succeed in the years ahead. So I think that single-mindedness is really important. That capacity to articulate a vision is particularly important. The second thing I would say is what really distinguishes leaders who are successful at leading transformation and those that are not is a hunger to understand themselves better, a hunger to understand what it is that they do that both is contributing to success but also is getting in the way of their success. One of my consistent experiences with CEOs who are successful at leading transformation is they really enjoy the process of assessment. They enjoy getting concrete data about how they think, their emotions when they feel threatened, what they do, how they make decisions, when their decision making is effective, when it's less effective. They enjoy learning about that because it gives them concrete information in order to grow and to change. The other thing that I've noticed is that they have a unique willingness to be vulnerable. They're willing to be challenged. They're willing publicly to be challenged. A common experience I have is that they'll invite me, for example, to meetings with their team, and they're as open to me challenging them publicly with their team as they are challenging their team members in terms of leadership, because they recognize their fundamental job is to identify and to role model the mindsets, the behaviors that are going to be required for the organization to be successful. And that requires courage, it requires vulnerability, it requires curiosity, it requires an ability to be objective and to look at what's required in a particular circumstance. Frankly, that's one of the things that's most compelling for me. I think what brings me the most joy in working with leaders is being a catalyst to helping them to grow and providing the tools that they need to latch onto to help them to take the growth journey that they want to take in order to achieve the aspirations that they have in mind for their organizations.